Oh, wow. That's a very, very nice mic.
Thank you. It's
Yeah, yeah.
not as fancy as you would think.
No, it looks like something from like just like old timey radio. Like if you saw what's his face, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. He had the song Frank Sinatra. Like that's something he would sing into back in like the 1920s.
Yeah, it's like it's a Shure mic though. So it's like it's not
Okay.
fancy. It's not like one of those Sterling whatever fancy ass blue mics that are like $800 or $1,000. It's like a $200 mic.
I will say this is far and out the best audio quality that I've had from a guest. Like right off the top. Like I've had a couple like Ben Hurwitz, when I had him, his audio kept cutting out a little bit, which became a little bit of a pain in the ass to edit. But yeah, fortunately, I'm learning the ropes with Premiere. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, wow, it's yeah. Beyond, what do you think of the cork board? That's new.
That's a very writery background to have.
Yeah, yeah, I have. You could see it's. Have you ever done storyboarding?
Not on a cork board. I've done it. Well, I don't think I've done story. Maybe I don't know, but I've done it with like big 8x10s with the grids. I do
Okay.
story grids. I don't think is that the same as storyboarding.
I'm not sure. 8x10. I'm not sure. Like
I've done it with
essentially.
index cards too. Where
Yeah,
you move
yeah,
it
yeah.
around. Mhm.
For it's 3 rows of different colors, like first act, second act, and on the bottom would be a third act. All of the pink cards, those are scenes of intense conflict.
Huh.
As you could tell, this was meant to be a 3-act thing that just sort of fizzled out halfway through the second act. And it's just been sitting there for a couple weeks, and I have not reapproached it. So I could do better.
A few weeks isn't that
Yeah.
bad. It's not that bad. I usually do mine. I think what's different for me is that is horizontal. I usually do mine as like act 1 and then act 2 and then like that and act 3 and then like that.
Yeah, I think everybody has their different mechanism, their different process towards how they write. Not even
Yeah.
just
I
screenwriting,
like
but
doing
anything. Yeah.
lately I've been doing PowerPoints actually. I like to do PowerPoint and it's like a
Interesting.
slide for each scene. And then and I have it up that way when I'm writing in a final draft on one side of the screen. I've
Yeah.
got my PowerPoint and that has like the primary conflict of the scene, the emotion, the tone. I'll add like a song because I like when I'm writing, I like to hear the song that would like it gives me the tone.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think as far as like filmmaking goes, like like a good soundtrack makes all the difference in the world.
And it's like it's kind of a feedback loop because I'll get from the soundtrack,
Yeah.
I'll get like the dialogue pacing and maybe like influences what words I choose and how I describe it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's something. Like I'm also I got to get out of the habit of this, but because I'm like such a music nerd, I'll if I am writing a scene, I'll put like a band song that goes along with the scene in the script. But at the end of the day, that's not the writer's job. That's like the editor and producer, or the showrunner, who's ever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good to have it in mind. Like it's almost like having a Pinterest board.
Okay.
My
Like,
friend
like,
was making fun of me because that's essentially what it's kind of like what my slides are. She's like, you basically have a Pinterest board for every scene. I'm like, kind of, yeah.
yeah, it's yeah, like a vision board for your work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with this podcast? What's the format? Are we already rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling. I already did the rolling, sound speeding. Yep. That's how it's just a conversation. That's for like an hour or so, and at the end of this I slice up cool clips, like interesting points, and there's already that whole conversation we just had about screenwriting, like that.
That was interesting. We're doing it.
Yeah, I like no, a couple of the guests I've had, they've offered some very useful feedback in terms, like I had Liz Glazer. She was the last person I talked to, just won Boston Comedy Festival, and she was giving me a lot of interesting stuff. Like, because I'm not a Zoom comic per se. Then again, I don't know who is. But it's a world that I'm like diving into a little bit because, yeah, we have another, what, like 6 months until we're able to step foot in a comedy club again?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm trying to channel my creativity at a screenplay right now.
Yeah.
Um, feature. I'm trying to do a feature. I mean, I have an ambitious goal. I want to do a feature and two pilots, like two
Okay.
TV pilots. Um, and right now I've got the concept for one of the TV pilots. I'm actually working on it with Nick Guerra.
Okay.
Um, 'Cause that's fun. We got the concept together in August, and then a bunch of happened,
Yeah.
and we haven't met up yet, but we've got the one sheet together. So now it's just a matter of, like, we need to get together and actually come up with our grid and everything, but we know what it is. So it should be really funny, and I'm excited to work with him because he's hilarious, and,
Okay.
it's gonna be good.
Yeah, that's not a terribly unrealistic goal. To have like three. I've heard like it's always good to write like three rough drafts back to back. That way, at the end of your third rough draft, you could go back to the first rough draft, and you're almost looking at it with a fresh set of eyes.
Interesting. I once took this rewrite class. Are you familiar with Pilar Alessandra and the On the Page podcast?
I am not.
It's great. It's
Sounds like
great.
something I'd be into. Go on.
Oh, totally. It's all about screenwriting, and she's got some really good guests. Like she had the writers of Coco on there, among a
Okay.
bunch of others. And I took her rewrite class 'cause she does classes,
Yes.
and she has like a system. I it was a while ago, but each rewrite you do it focusing on a different aspect of the screenplay. So you do one rewrite and it's just characters, or you might even do a rewrite for each of your primary three characters, to make sure that they're all like really rich. Like you're just focusing on like
Yeah.
just your protagonist and adding like flavor to that. And so on. Then you might do a rewrite just focusing on setting and like you're only rewriting the like descriptions
Yeah.
of the settings and so on. Like each time we're focusing on another thing. And I did that I've done it only once on one pilot, but when I had it read by a few people, they were like, your characters are so rich. I really see the world. I'm like,
Well, good for you. Yeah, that's
cool.
that's characters are my weakness because it usually takes. I'm good at writing story. I'm good at getting the conflict in there. But as far as like, it takes a couple of rereads to like really start getting in that parentheses box, like, oh, 35 years old, so and forth, and getting being able to like truly paint a picture of who these people are and what their wants are.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can't even start on page one if I don't understand the wants and needs and like
Yeah.
have a pretty fundamental grasp of my protagonist, antagonist, and my dynamic person.
Yeah, that's definitely important. I've
Um,
heard there's another podcast that there's another screenwriting podcast that I listen to. I forget, Children of Tendu, maybe it's called. I know it's pretty
huh,
popular.
I haven't heard of that one.
I'll look it up in a bit. But like their whole thing is that character drives story. And I feel like out of all the improv schools in LA, like the Groundlings was the one that I got the most out of because I feel like that's what they were trying to like
Hmm.
engrave in their students' heads, that commit to a character and the story will naturally come to you.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about
Yeah.
the who. I'm actually currently at Groundlings. I'm taking their intermediate a second time. I passed it
Okay.
the first time and then I postponed
Yeah.
doing advanced because of the pandemic.
Okay.
And it's been so long. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it again.
Yeah.
Because
I
why not? And intermediate is their character level, and I'm like, well, you can
Yeah.
never be too good at character.
Yeah. I wish the last time I took basic at Groundlings was maybe like 9-10 months before the pandemic, and like I've always wanted to go back, but it's been long enough. I don't know if the pandemic puts a freeze on there. Like if you don't re-enroll in a class in a year, like, yeah, that's it.
I'm sure they're gonna make exceptions for
yeah,
pandemic stuff.
I'll probably like reach out at some point, but at the end of the day, it's like not the end of the world. Like I got a lot out of Groundlings in ways that, yeah, I appreciate everything they've done for me.
I just feel like it's a really good place to
Yeah,
drill the basics of storytelling,
yeah,
just to get them in your head.
yeah.
Because then it becomes like second nature. I never went to any kind of screenwriting school or writing
Yeah.
anything formally. All my training has been after just random classes I've taken and doing improv at IO West and at
Okay.
Groundlings at Second City. And now I'm at a point where I feel reasonably confident. Like I
Okay.
randomly matched on one of my dating apps with a screenwriter, and not like an out of work one who just writes stuff at Starbucks, like
Okay.
a real one.
Like me. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Someone who's like sold scripts, had
Yeah.
big like Hilary Swank and Johnny Depp attached, like a real person, you know.
Yeah.
And we were able to talk for 2 hours about story, and I felt like I was not drowning.
Okay.
I was,
Good stuff.
I was
Okay.
proud
So
of
this is
myself.
something.
Like I could hold my own in this conversation and contribute to it even. How cool.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more like I remember when I first moved to LA, I was one of those. I would sit in a Starbucks, not necessarily to get seen, but just because it would get very, very hot in not even my apartment, but house at the time. I was living with two people not far from where I am now, and yeah, but
Yeah. I don't know. Do you write more comedies or more dramas or
I
sci-fi? I don't know why I feel like you write sci-fi.
yeah I. I dabbled with one Alien pilot a couple years ago, but nah. I write dramedy. 'Cause
Mhm.
I don't know. There's a lot. Like I feel like if I'm intentionally just trying to write comedy without the motivation to write story, without story, it's without the conflict. It's like, what's the point?
Yeah, I kind of see why they do things like Punch Up, because you have to have the fundamentals there, and
Yeah,
really the jokes are just the decorations. That's the lamp, you know.
yeah. Were you ever? Did you ever watch Scrubs?
Yes, I love Scrubs.
Okay. Because I think Scrubs was the show for me that first got me interested in writing, but also did it in a way where it's like that was a very dramatic show, a lot of
Yes.
heavy moments.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like
Yeah.
when he had his, like, he's a silly young guy, but
Yeah.
then there's like the first time a patient dies on him.
Yeah.
And yeah, they really balance that quite beautifully.
I thought like the story between him and Elliot was done in a way that was very organic. It wasn't your typical Ross and Rachel or Sam and Diane from Cheers. Like it was something like with a lot more depth that you just sort of like it resonates to this day.
Yeah. Gosh, I
Yeah,
need to go back and watch it again. I've been watching The Office again, as everyone has during the
yeah.
pandemic, apparently.
I think everybody. Yeah,
And I think the dynamic with Jim and Pam, you might say the same thing, where it was a lot more subtle, and they really, really built it, which speaks
yeah,
to tension. Tension is such a powerful thing, and that's where I think comedy comes in later on, like jumping around and
yeah,
coming back to that subject. Like I think that's where it does come down to the writer to set up the conflict in such a way that it's like a Rube Goldberg machine of comedy, that then the punch up person, or when you do your joke pass on the dialogue, everything's set up to be funny.
yeah,
Where you've put together these awkward situations where it's like, well, how is this going to work out? This doesn't make any oh, like they're going to
yeah.
have to do something really stupid to pull this off. And
Have you ever read a script of The Office? Just
I haven't.
okay, because I have not either, but I've had multiple writers tell me like it's a good entryway script for like if you are interested in comedy writing for TV, because they're very good at all like they average maybe one joke, one punchline per page.
Mhm.
So it's like they set up this like organic scene, and just I guess like the humor happens naturally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's difficult trying to write comedy into a script when I've done stand up for so long because it's just so different. Um, stand up, I always write. I mean, we are very different stand ups. Like you're
Yeah.
very one liner. I try and write from a place of point of view. And like I'll give my opinion and then I'll give examples. And that really
Yeah.
that really covers it for me.
I
It's just a bunch
you know,
of my opinions and then stupid examples
yeah.
and kind of me ranting. Um and and that's just not how screenwriting comedy
Yeah,
comedy to
screenwriting.
script works. It's such a different beast.
Yeah, it's all storytelling.
It's
Yeah.
storytelling, it's situational, and sometimes I'm able to get the pithy dialogue in there, but it's so much of the
Yeah.
comedy comes from the characters trying to
Yeah.
accomplish their goal, but they're really just different people
Yeah.
and getting them into trouble. And I'm writing this and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
I'm giggling while I'm writing it. I hope someone else finds it funny.
Yeah.
Because there's none of that feedback.
Yeah, nobody wants to read anybody's shit. It sucks.
You have to pay people to. I really like Script Anatomy, which is so dauntingly expensive
Yeah.
for a
Coverage.
reread. It's like $700.
Okay, I have not. I think the most. I think one time I spent $200 on coverage for a pilot, and it was horrible feedback. It wasn't horrible like bad feedback. It was like I probably should have saved my money and like spent another 6 months to a year like asking people who know what they're talking about to like give me some sort of that was it's a yeah. That's how many bad screenwriters there are in LA, is that you have to pay people to give you good feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel very lucky. I've got at least a couple of mentors who are willing to read my scripts for me and
Yeah.
have offered to do so. I'm like, oh my God, that is money in the
Yeah.
bank.
Oh
Thank
yeah.
you.
I have one friend who, when he first moved to LA, he like slept on my couch for like probably like 4 or 5 months while he was like getting his work situation together and all that, and like he's been like a showrunner's assistant on a couple shows, and he's been organically just like working his way, like he's been putting in the hours, and he reads my stuff, like that's like a friendship for life right there, like having a free place to stay while figuring it out.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy.
But it is like I would never like I would make sure that whatever I give to him is worth a pass, because it's like it's
like I
time
don't
is
want
money.
to give anybody, I
Yeah.
don't want to spend money on having a reread or on even having anyone else read my stuff until I've done at least like 2 more drafts on top of the first draft. Like um I want to do my setting draft to make sure all of my descriptions of all my scenes are like
Yeah.
as A plus as I can get them.
Like
And
the word
then
economy.
huh?
Word economy, like making sure it's like no extra words that don't need to be there.
Well, I mean, there's word economy, but also making sure that it's plenty descriptive.
Yeah. Yeah.
The best screenplays really do paint the picture for you. And they don't leave they leave some to the imagination. They're not going to say, okay, there were hardwood floors, there were cherry wood, they're 10 years
Yeah.
old. Like, but they are going to say, the place settings gleamed or whatever on the large oak table while the paintings overlooked whatever, um, to kind of verbally at least show us like what is the camera, like what are we seeing.
Yeah.
um so I think it should definitely be something where as the reader goes through it, they see the movie, they're watching the movie, and they don't have to like fill in so many blanks.
And they get
um
invested in the story.
yeah, so I know before I have anyone read it, I'm gonna do my pass for setting, and I'm gonna do at least 3 character passes. One for my protagonist, one for my antagonist, and one for my dynamic.
Right on.
Mm-hmm.
One sec. There's a reoccurring theme in this podcast, is that I always get thirsty.
Yeah,
However,
go ahead.
The episode with Liz Glazer was the first time I didn't take a sip of anything, and I'm proud of that.
Well, I'll take my opportunity to take a sip. I actually, I was a bad girl today, and I had booze for breakfast.
Okay, it's the
I,
pandemic. It's the time to do it.
I took a couple days. I'm in between jobs right now, or
Okay.
not really in between jobs because
Yeah.
I'm starting my new job tomorrow, and I ended my last job on Friday. So I just took a couple days off to focus on my screenplay,
Okay.
and was like, you know what, writers drink.
Yeah.
So this morning I made like glass of half orange juice, half cranberry, and then peach vodka.
Right on. Okay.
'Cause why not?
You ever watch New Girl?
Sometimes.
Okay. One of my favorite episodes of New Girl was the one where Nick, he decides, like, you know what, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to work on my novel, I'm going to finally finish it, I'm going to be like Hemingway. And he just ends up getting drunk and going to the zoo.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I feel like I have to build into my writing time my distraction time because I know that, like, okay, if I'm going to spend 8 hours writing, 4.5 will be me shopping on Amazon.
Okay. Yeah, like, for me, it's social media, just constantly refreshing repeatedly. Which
Mhm.
this, like, I one thing I really love about doing these podcasts is that I don't feel distracted, like, because I'm actually engaging, I'm having a conversation. Whereas if I'm writing or if I'm editing, or even editing, which I'm getting better about, but it's still, I find myself just going to like Facebook and Instagram and just like constantly refreshing, and it's just unnecessary.
I feel like for me, when I edit my podcast, I can't get distracted because it's audio. Like I have no video portion of the Villains of History podcast. So everything I'm looking at is just the WAV file. I edit it
Yeah.
in Audition. So I can't um I have to remember the whole time everything I've just edited up to whatever point I'm at. That way in the future I'm like, "Oh, we doubled back and repeated this. Oh, this joke wasn't funny. Oops, we contradicted this." Um so yeah, I can't. I have to focus. I cannot get distracted while editing.
Yeah. I think with audio, it's a little bit easier.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Or
Definitely.
just in a
Gosh.
world with too many distractions.
It's hard. I find it a lot harder to focus now that we're in the pandemic, and I think it's because I I'm going like stir crazy inside the
Okay.
house.
Have you stopped doing like outdoor mics entirely?
Um I guess so. Yes, kind of
Yeah.
right now. I want to start back up again, but I like got really tired. So what's happened with me in my life lately is that I got I got I got at work. I started getting okay.
All right, go
Back up.
on. Yeah.
I I was working for a software company, and I was kind of it was a job that I wasn't very passionate about. I was actually really bored most of the time, but there was still a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
And at some point, like, I started looking for other projects because I was so bored, and I was like, you know, what if we had a podcast? And then, oh, what if we did our own promo commercial and stuff like that? And they were like, oh my God, we love that you're bringing your creativity into this. Little did I know that, like, my creativity is like a little like fixed pot in my heart. Like, it's my creative energy is here, and if I don't use it on my things, if I use it at work, then that creative energy is like sapped. And then I have no creative energy left for myself. And
Okay.
I kind of had to learn that. I mean, plus also, like, when I added those projects on, it wasn't in lieu of my existing work, it was on top of my existing work. So then from about October, well, first I did a huge Joe Biden fundraiser back in,
Congratulations, by the way.
thank
Again,
you. That was
I don't know if I
great.
ever did.
It was grueling
Yeah.
because I was up until like 2, 3 a.m. for like a month just working on the fundraisers, on the flyers, on the marketing campaign, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So there was that.
Just remind me because I'd love to talk more about that. But go on.
Okay, so there is that, and then in the rest of October, November was just working like hell on these podcasts. And then I started working on a commercial for the software company with Brent Pella. And he was writing it. And then I was kind of producing, like we were like co-producing. He wrote it, but like I gave notes and blah, blah, blah. And then we cast it. And I was taking care of like working with our legal department, working with HR, making sure there was COVID safety, all like the less fun aspects of producing something is what I was doing while Brent Pella got to do the more creative fun parts.
Okay.
um, but I was learning a lot by working with him. So I was like, it's fine. Brent, do your thing. I'm just gonna observe the genius and hope it rubs off. um, so we were doing that. So between the podcast and working on that, and then on top of all my normal responsibilities,
Yeah.
it's been about 4 months of like 10 to 12 hour days.
Yeah.
Like pretty
Yeah.
much since September to last week.
At that point, open mics, they will always be there, and like, knock on wood. I mean, who knows? But it's not. I don't know. I do find if I find other creative outlets, still like doing live comedy, particularly right now. Like, yeah, it's easy to like fall by the wayside. Like,
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. Like getting up in front of the same people.
I kind of tend to go in cycles too, to be honest. So, like earlier in 2020, I was doing a lot of sketch stuff and
Okay.
making some things, putting them on Instagram. And then, middle of the year, probably around August, yeah, July, August, I started writing stand up again. I probably wrote a new 10 minutes that I really like and I want to keep.
Yeah.
And then I kind of crashed the crash I've just described of overworking
Yeah.
myself and not being able to have any creative energy left. And I'm so excited to come back now. I mean, in the fall, though, October, November, December, I was working on the outline for my feature. So
Okay.
I was eking some creative work in there, just
Yeah.
fitting it in where I could. And then now January has been the month of getting that first draft done. Um, I'm at about page 30, and my hope is tonight to get to page 50 or 60. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. It's
But
20 pages a night. All right. That is
I mean,
ambitious. Yeah.
I have to crank them out now because tomorrow I'm starting work again.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now I think I'm gonna step into another sketch comedy phase because I'm starting back up at Groundlings, and I think that's where I'm headed before heading into another stand up phase. So like cycling through things because it's really hard to do everything at the same time. You just burn out.
I've heard from multiple people one of the secrets to success is time management.
Mm-hmm.
Which I've been on the other side of my cork board. Those little Post-its.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, my spatial awareness on here is not that great.
I see it.
Yeah, those Post-its. Those are all responsibilities that I have to do. And I also got one of these. Hold on one second. It's a stamp that says completed that makes completing my activities fun.
That looks very satisfying. I
It-
got this. It's not an iPad. It's like one of those it's just a tablet that you can write on
okay.
with a stylus, and then you can erase things.
Is that
I'm
electronic?
erasing. Huh?
That's like electronic? It's almost okay. It's like a little pixel.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's called a Remarkable tablet, and I love it because I can put in my to-do lists, and they have literally like a to-do list template format with like the little boxes and things, and so I'll fill that out and then I'll erase it.
Okay,
It's
that
sweet.
sounds satisfying. And
It's pretty satisfying.
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, whatever it takes to push through this thing that we call adulthood.
Oh my gosh. It's like we all have to get over those walls. I hate the wall. I feel like every time I sit down to write my screenplay, I I have to climb over the wall of distraction first. And
Yeah.
I think the wall of distraction is actually psychologically something else entirely. I think it's more like a wall of
Yeah.
self-doubt.
Yeah. I love how the sun is setting, or yeah, the sun is setting a little bit, and like the camera, like it's been like you see like the glare a little bit. Like no, I'm
Mhm.
I'm, I'm not complaining about it. I think it looks cool.
It does, but
Yeah.
eventually, like, it sets too
Yeah.
much and I have to
Yeah.
move it again.
Yeah. 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 Well, so yeah, you raised what was like some like obscene amount of money for like the Biden campaign.
Well, you know, I wouldn't call it obscene, but we raised $10,000.
Yeah, in my world, that's obscene, which I says a lot about my success in life. But that's
Honestly, it
yeah.
was way more than I thought we would. Cause I was like, it was like Legally Blonde, where she's like, "Oh, I just woke up and decided to go to Harvard Law."
Okay.
I woke up and I was like, I want to do a Biden fundraiser. And then, like, the idea was like, what if we did it 24 hours? And my friend was like, that's literally nuts. Don't do that to yourself. And I said, okay, how about 12? And he's like, that's still crazy. And I was like, I'm doing it. and,
All right.
and so, I set out to do that, and I was setting it up on ActBlue because they have that platform is amazing. If you want to do a fundraiser, you just go through that, and it makes it so much more official. And the money goes directly to the campaign, so I don't have to do anything, and people can trust it, and that's great because I don't want to steal it. I don't need anybody's money. I also don't want to do extra work. So
Okay.
ActBlue was wonderful, and so I set it up, and they have you put in like, what's your goal? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know, $10,000? I doubt we're going to do that, but let me put that in. My goal in my head was actually 5,000. But
Yeah.
I was like, meh. And then we hit it.
And
What? Like,
this was 12 hours of comedy on Zoom.
yes,
How many
12
comedians
hours.
was it?
Um, I had everybody I think I want to say I had like 7 comedians per hour. So 7 times 12, what's that, like 84?
Some 70, 84. Yes.
84? Ooh, that's a lot. But there were some repeats in there. Um, and I was, of course, repeating each one. The way I organized it and what helped me get it done even was I started out by just posting to this one comedy group, hey, I need hosts to host and produce an hour of comedy each for a fundraiser, for a 12-hour comedy fundraiser. And just by the end of the day, I had my 12.
Yeah.
And I said, you guys are booking it, but I get final say.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to make sure that like everybody was actually funny,
Yeah.
not booking their friends. And
Too much of
and
that.
I managed to get the first person I got that I thought of is someone who I really think is so hilarious and talented. Caleb Sinan, do you know him?
Not off the top of my head.
Really funny. He started in Atlanta, but he's out here in LA now.
Okay, right on.
And he's been on Conan a few times. He has a Comedy Central half hour. Really talented guy. And so I messaged him. He's been on my podcast, so we know each other. I messaged him. I said, would you do this fundraiser? And he said, yes. I was like, oh, this is great because I've got someone with a half hour on Comedy Central. This sets my bar. And so that's what I told the host. I'm like, this is the bar. I need people of this caliber. Comedy Central, been on Comedy Central. That's the
Oh,
bar. Which totally helped. So I didn't have to be like, sorry, you can't be on it. Sorry, this person can't be on it. They're not funny enough. It was like, no. This is the standard. And that was great because since he said yes, another person, like all these other people who had Comedy Central half hours or other half hours on, what have you, Hulu or Amazon, whatever. Uh, they were like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Eventually, even Maria Bamford was on board.
that is right. Wow.
And then her mom passed away, so she had to cancel. Very understandable, very
Yeah.
sad. But she really was going to be on. I'm not lying.
Yeah.
That was super cool. That was thanks to Jackie Cation, who was very gracious and forwarded my request along. Jackie Cation, by the way, amazing, amazing person. Love her so much. Um, yeah, everybody was just so collaborative and wonderful. We wouldn't have been able to do it without working together as a team, and dangling some bait for people. So I
Yeah.
got folks to donate some prizes. So I made it a competition among the comedians. Whoever could raise the most money won, cash or acting lessons or a script consult. Cool stuff. And yeah,
Wow.
my whole network came in handy there because like the script consult was with Mark Brazil, who's the creator of That 70s Show. So that really got the that got the
That's
comics super motivated. They were like, "What?"
so like a script console. It's like they write something and he'll read it
Yeah,
and
that
be
he
like,
would read their script and talk to them, give them notes
yeah, wow.
for free.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely something that's a motivational tool for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I think that girl ended up raising at least $1,000 herself, the one who won that. And then the person who was in second raised like 900, and then the third one raised like 500. So that as they got competitive over wanting that script consult, it really went up there. And then I also got lucky. I mean, this is where having a lot of friends and being a social butterfly is so valuable because I used my whole network, even the ones in New York. Good friend of mine, this comic John Moses. I met him through a
That
comedy festival a couple years ago. He was out there, and he was friends with this comic J.L. Coven. Have you heard of him?
nah.
So
John
he was
Moses I've heard of. But
he's
yeah.
great. JL, he went viral for his Trump impersonations. And so then on Washington Post, he was like highlighted as the best Trump impersonator in the country.
That is
True
quite a
story.
credit, yeah.
Yes. And so he had a huge following. So I asked John Moses if he could ask JL. Well, I asked John Moses to host an hour, right? And he's like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much." But I'm strategic, right? So, hey, would you do this? And then, hey, any chance you could ask JL? And he's like, oh, that's a great idea. So he got JL, and JL alone, he ended up just by posting it to Twitter a few times, raised another $2,000.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. I emailed one of my favorite authors who's a progressive. I'm a progressive Christian myself, and she is a Lutheran minister out of Colorado. Her name is Nadia Bolz-Weber. Love her. And I've read all her books, and so I just sent her a lovely, polite, sweet fan email and said, "Hey, I'm doing this fundraiser. I would love it if you could tweet it to your fans." And lo and behold, got another like $700 because she posted it to her Instagram.
Yeah, that's incredible. I guess obviously so many people were on board because the last 4 years have been,
Mm-hmm.
God, the
Yeah.
worst.
But oh my God, I got so grumpy
Yeah.
during the course of that.
The last year has been one of the like to say the least the most challenging years for everybody. I feel grateful that I'm gonna get through this at the bare minimum, being able to eat and have a roof over my head, but still, just like everything that went on, God, just refreshing. And it was definitely the day that Pennsylvania got called for Biden. It was like just driving through Silver Lake. It was, and like I drove through Silver Lake and West Hollywood, just went on a drive to like witness people celebrating like what I argued that, yeah, they're on the right side of history. And just like, it was unreal. It was like, there's just euphoric. It was like something that was just a sign of optimism in what was otherwise has been a very pessimistic year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, we celebrated more than we did when Obama won. And I know people
Yeah.
celebrated like hell when Obama won because that was such a huge deal.
Oh yeah.
Such a huge deal.
I remember like back in New York, people were like parading in the street, and on like a similar level when like I remember I was at a bar when they announced that they killed bin Laden. And it was just like people were celebrating that. Which,
Oh, I'm sure in New York
yeah,
that was huge.
yeah.
Less huge here in LA, but
Okay,
I
I
imagine
could
over
see
there.
I could see that. Like there's something weird to me about celebrating the death of anybody, but I think in New York, like what the city of New York went through on nine, like it
Mhm.
did hit the city close to home in like a weird way.
Yeah, it really bonded everyone together
Yeah,
out in New York. I know people still talk about it. I happened to be in New Jersey either a year ago, 2 years ago, on 9/11, and I was just, at a Panera working, and, there were these New Jersey housewives, moms, I don't know, they were, like, in their
yeah,
50s all talking about 9/11, and I was like, "Wow." You don't
yeah.
hear these conversations in LA at a Panera Bread, like, this is something it was so close to home, and they were talking about people they knew and, like, really taking time to remember it, and I was like, "Wow, it really is different over on the East Coast."
Yeah, I've never really taken the time to think about it. Like I've thought, because one random piece of film trivia that I know, which not that it's like that uncommon to know, was do you remember the Dana Carvey movie Master of Disguise?
Mhm.
Okay, the scene that where he's in the turtle suit and like the classic line is like,
Turtle, turtle.
"Yeah, am I not turtley enough for the turtle club? Turtle, turtle."
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
That scene was shot during the 9/11 attacks.
Oh.
I heard like some AD like wheeled a TV onto the set and announced what was going on, and they had a moment of silence, and production was shut down for the rest of the day. But I feel like in a lot of ways, like that was the worst that the city of LA has like really don't I like people died from LA,
On
but
the
like that was
plane. Yeah.
yeah. But it's just like that was it wasn't something. It definitely hit New York like way harder.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
just no comparison to
indisputable.
actually
Yeah,
being there. It's just a
yeah,
matter of being there or not being there. I mean, everybody's watched the documentaries about it and heard so many sad stories. You'd have to like not be a human to hear about it and not
yeah,
feel something, very strong. But yeah, I can't imagine actually being a New Yorker
yeah.
at that time. I just, but
I
what's insane is how in 2020 we've lost like a
so much
thousand
more.
times.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we are losing currently one 9/11's worth of people a day to a virus that should have been way better controlled at the beginning.
Oh my god. Oh my
Yeah,
god, yeah. One thing that I really liked that sorry, that Biden did during the inauguration was where it was, well, technically the night before that he did the COVID memorial service.
yeah,
And in watching that, first I bawled about it because it was like a cathartic release of something that I felt we needed to have done early. Have
yeah.
a memorial, something, because that's just part of how we grieve as a society. We have a funeral service. We do something to remember it and to collectively feel the sadness together. And it's part of how we heal. We get the emotion out and then we're able to heal, but we also acknowledge it in a big way. That makes it real. And so after I bawled my eyes out, then I got really angry at the fact that Trump didn't do that. It's just such a highlight of his lack of humanity. Like, how did
I,
he not do any kind of anything? Why
I,
wasn't there a memorial when we hit 100,000 deaths?
I think he just capitalized on the fact that I think the ability for human beings to feel empathy has just been so compromised with the fact that we like half the country is connected to these devices that just it just feeds you what you want to hear, and because of that like we just lose sight it's easy to not acknowledge that the last year has been absolutely devastating in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like a million ways.
we should be sad. We should
Yeah.
be allowed to be sad. We should be led into sadness so that we can feel it and heal. Because one of the least healthy things you can do is avoid your emotions, because the emotions are there. they're below the surface. They live there. And if you don't acknowledge them, they're going to eat away at you and they're going to hurt you in other ways. So that's something I learned by watching the movie Inside Out. I'm kidding.
I have not watched Inside Out, but go on.
They do talk about that in the movie
Yeah.
Inside Out. It's about emotions and feelings. But I've learned that like through therapy and everything, that you have to feel your emotions to move past them and to heal. And that's why therapy is so therapeutic.
Yes, I've heard that therapy. Yeah,
Therapy
go
is
on.
therapeutic.
Yeah. Yes.
But I think I'm guilty of running away from my emotions by piling tons and tons of things on my to-do list. And one of the things that 2020 did for me by taking out a lot of comedy and a lot of my options to constantly be performing, is it slowed me down and allowed
Yeah.
me to get very sad.
Okay.
But in a way that my therapist said was actually good, because it was like bringing to the surface things that I was running away from. And by confronting those emotions, I could then like understand them and then move on from them, rather
Okay.
than running away and then the thing that is hurting and misunderstood just lives there.
Yeah. I think it's good for people to get in touch with their emotions in some sort of way. And it's easy to feel the desire to run from it. Like, yeah, this is a very emotional time for, God, this is such a weird, it's just like, it's a cliche, like, oh, these uncertain times, but they totally are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
there's
we're
signs.
allowed
Yeah.
to have emotions about them, and we should. And I just really appreciated the memorial service because
Yeah.
it allowed us to have that grief together, which we should be having a lot of. I mean, if we were led in grief to see the magnitude of the loss this year, earlier in the year, earlier in the whole pandemic, then maybe it would be that much more real to all the people who are
Yeah.
anti-maskers.
That's just like the magnitude of it. Which, granted, it's far worse now. Which, again, I was a lifelong New Yorker until 28 when I moved here, but the city of New York just got hit by this thing so hard. Like that's like I'm grateful to say that so far I don't know anybody personally who's been like Kurt has like a lingering cough from it, but like that, from what it sounds like, it's gonna go. But as far as like in New York goes, like I just hear like all these like horror stories,
Yeah.
and
Oh my
particularly
gosh.
early on when they didn't really have an idea of how to treat it yet, or like there's just so many more unknowns. Like at least right now, like the treatments are improving, but
Pandemic
yeah,
wise, like New York was an inevitable
yeah
nightmare because of how on top of itself it is, and all the public
the,
areas like the subways.
the
It's
filthy city.
enclosed. It's muggy in the subway as it is.
Yeah.
Like, oh gosh. I was actually in New York around the time where like right before I was there March 2nd.
Oh wow. Okay.
And the shutdowns were on like the 15th.
Yeah.
So I was Ubering around. My mom did not want me to go on that trip. It was a work conference,
Okay.
and my mom was like, "Don't go, don't go." And I'm like, "There's no COVID in New York. It's only in Washington right now. Aren't you reading the news?"
Oh
Naive little
man.
me. But I indulged my mom and I said, "Okay, I won't go on the subway. I'll just stay in Ubers." So I mostly Ubered and walked. And thank goodness, because you know.
I am nostalgic for that little stretch right before the pandemic, just thinking about like back when we thought this was just something that was like, oh, it's just like this overhyped thing. It's not a big deal.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
And
my mom was like, "Should we start stocking up on food and things?" And I was like, "It's just Russian propaganda."
there, there's I was thinking about like just like something that I use to remind myself of a different time period for each era of when I've done comedy. like are the topical stuff that like the topical stuff that was being said at open mics. Like for example, when I first started doing comedy, that's when wow, I can't believe I'm forgetting the comic's name. He played Lincoln on Broad City. Hanna-Barbera's.
Mm-hmm.
He came out like he was the first big comic to go after Bill Cosby, and like people were talking about that. Whereas right before the pandemic, like people were doing like, oh, this new coronavirus thing. Like there's this one comic who has a horrible, horrible joke that I can't stand along the lines of like, you hear about this new coronavirus from China, right? I can't believe I didn't even know Mexicans could swim that far. It is a cringeworthy joke, but what I would give to turn back time to go back to that one moment where it was just like I thought of this thing as, oh, this is just something from like, yeah,
The
this will
stupid
pass.
topical thing that isn't a big deal. Like
Yeah.
most things aren't a big deal. And then this is the first thing our generation has had to face that's like, oh, this is a very big deal.
Oh yeah,
Um,
this is, and the thing with other like events, like at least like God forbid like there's a major earthquake in LA, which knock on wood, but like there'll be people around who've experienced it before. I remember when we had like that 4.5 in Pacoima. First thing I do, I step outside my door. My next door neighbor like is giving me her Northridge stories, so I at least have like the support. Like, all right, we're gonna get through this.
mhm.
Whereas something with like a pandemic, all the people who lived through like the 1918 pandemic, the flu pandemic, they're gone. We don't have the support to get through this. And hey, kitty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's my little boy. Um, he's been down on the floor by me this whole time, like
Yeah.
rubbing his face on my toes.
God. No,
um,
but yeah, it's just like all this. At least like at least for other events, like we have emotional support to get through it. Like somebody gives us the rundown, but just right now, like or
yeah,
if,
it's so foreign. And what's sad
yeah,
too is I've seen in the last few weeks with the surge here in Los Angeles, the number of people whose grandparents have passed away
yeah,
is astounding. I had my grandmother
yep.
passed away 2 weeks
Sorry
ago
to hear
of
that.
COVID.
Yeah,
She was 99. So as sad as I am that I didn't get to see her in the last year to give her like one last hug and all that. It's something to be celebrated that she lived to be 99. That's
yeah,
huge. It's such a blessing. Trying to look at the positive and unfortunately, it was COVID that weakened her. I mean, when you're almost 100, you're already so weak.
yeah,
Anything can take you out, strong wind.
yeah,
So yeah, she had no chance at surviving COVID, poor little thing. Um, and I posted that, and like the next day I saw this girl from my old groundlings class. She lost her grandmother. 2 days later I saw
yeah,
another grandmother pass away. Someone's grandfather passed away yesterday. I saw another grandfather pass
yeah,
away last week. It's raining grandparents.
yeah.
Like
And it isn't even just like people our age are getting affected in ways that I like it like Kurt, he's like a healthy guy. He like I his cough is gonna go away, but it's still. I don't want to get a cough for. I think it's
there's
going on a month
There's
now.
the psychological,
Yeah.
effects too. Those are what I am most scared of because my mind is already my worst enemy.
Okay.
And then on top of that, to have that become worse. There are people who are having, like, severe depression as a result of
Yeah.
having had coronavirus, not from the situation, because their situation hasn't changed, it's their mental chemistry has changed.
Yeah.
Um, some people are having psychoses.
Yeah.
Um and who knows what else is
I've
going
heard
on.
of
But I have a
COVID guilt.
COVID guilt.
Yeah.
Interesting. My cousin had COVID a couple of months ago, and she has not been the same since. She's
Yeah.
had some definite like rage outbursts, and it's not we can tell it's not her personality. Like, she's
Okay.
always been kind of crotchety as a person, but never to the point of,
Yeah.
knocking things over, kicking things, like screaming at the top of her lungs. Like, this is not the person we know. Um, that's terrifying. Uh,
Yeah.
that's what I fear. It's like death and then personality changes and then fertility. But you can always get
Yeah.
like IVF or get a
Yeah.
surrogate. But
I that is true. Yeah, I'm less afraid of dying than I am of living a life where the chemistry in my brain is like completely screwed up long term.
yeah, I
'Cause
mean,
I already know I'm a weird guy as is. I already know I have my share of. Uh, I'm not gonna. I don't want to say obstacles. I don't want to victimize myself in any way. Like I don't know. But it's like I don't want to just add to that. Yeah.
yeah, like life is hard enough without an added mental
Yeah.
health issue, or if you already have a mental health issue, to then make it worse
Yeah.
from COVID. So I've been taking
Yeah.
it pretty seriously. That's why you haven't seen me at a lot of mics
Yeah,
or
yeah,
shows. Also, my mom has diabetes, so I'm staying in
yeah.
the house and just going, you know what? Crossing my fingers that I'll
Is
still be good at stand up
yeah.
after the vaccine.
Oh, you'll
Um,
be surprised. I do remember my first set back, and it was like a month and a half is nothing compared to a lot of people, but it's still. I got up under the impression that I was just gonna forget everything, and I was gonna be sloppy. And I remember like it was just yesterday, getting up, I therapeutic noise down in Long Beach, and I remember being frightened that okay, I might get sick being here, or the police might show up because I don't think like the stigma was quite there yet. And to this day, I remember getting up on stage, taking my mask off, and just being like, it's been a crazy couple months. See, I have a bit of a crush on a comedian who, by the way, is the worst as a comic, as a person. You ever like someone who's so, like, and the place exploded, and I was just able to like get back into my rhythm. It was like, oh, like I didn't forget my material. Like it's
yeah. I'm so glad I got to do a half hour a couple of like a month and a half ago or so. I was up in the the high desert,
yeah.
drove all the way out there and yeah, did a half hour and I taped it. And I'm
Oh, good.
so glad because that's
Yeah.
got some of the it's got the whole new chunk that I wrote while in COVID in there.
Yeah.
So before I do my next half hour or whenever it is I go back, I'm going to make myself watch the whole thing, maybe a couple times over. I also noticed that Maria Bamford does this thing where she posts to Twitter and she says, looking for people who are willing to watch a half hour of my comedy, we'll
Yeah.
send you a t-shirt, right? And I said, you know what? I have a pretty good following and I've got some fans.
Okay.
So
I
I'm
think
doing that. I got 12 people who replied yes. So
okay.
like, there you go. There's my stage time. There's two half hours a week for the next 6
Yeah.
weeks if I
I
want
was
to.
doing something that Maria Bamford also like was inspired by Maria Bamford. Something she would do is she would tweet like a couple years ago. It's like if you sit down and watch me run my special to you, I will buy you lunch. Which I couldn't obviously couldn't do that, nor do I have a special's worth of material yet. But I was asking people, hey, can I run some shit to you through Zoom? And that was very useful, just having my notebook out and seeing, all right, what hits, where is there room for more tags? Where are things not flowing? How could I it was useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to try that.
Yeah.
And the thing about that I like too is they're going into it knowing I'm going to do 30 minutes.
Okay.
And it's almost like a way easier way to get longer sets, which is great. Because one of my goals for 2020 had been to record my first album in
Okay.
December. And so I had the goal of getting a lot of longer stage time and polishing that hour.
Yeah.
um, alas, that did not happen. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to record my album 1 year from when I get the vaccine.
Okay.
That way,
Did you get the
huh?
vaccine?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
So, I mean, I'm guessing April, May.
Yeah.
So, June 2022 is when my first album will come out.
All
And,
right.
well, not come out, that's when I'll record it. Because I want to hear to just really polish it, just make
Yeah.
it sparkle. Because once it's recorded, it's recorded. So I don't want to go into it like rusty from a year and a half of the pandemic. Um, I want it to be really good.
Yeah.
So that's my schedule, and I think I'm probably going to use a lot of this in the during this pandemic time. I'm going to use those one-on-one sessions with fans to just run it until I finally can do it in person.
Right on. That is definitely that. Yeah, you have a whole system to get that done.
Got to do what you got
Yeah.
to do.
I would also imagine like I have not recorded a comedy album, but I've recorded music, and sometimes I'll be listening to something and I'll hear, oh, there should have been like a lyric should have gone this way, or there should have been like a harmony or a hook here. And it's I would imagine with comedy it's the same thing. It's like, why didn't I add this tag, and why didn't I think of this?
Like there's old tags that I used to do, and while I'm
Yeah.
listening to one, I'll go, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
that one! There's a room for another laugh here. Oh, there's room for an
Yeah.
act out here. Why didn't I do that?" I recently, what did I do? I had written my jokes down on index cards, and I was like putting them together
Yeah.
as their like for my half an hour that I was going to do in the high desert, and I saw that a few of them actually went together. Like I initially wrote them in two completely different,
Yeah.
separate chunks. I was like, "Oh my god,
Well,
here's a chunk."
that's always a good feeling.
Yeah, I was like,
Uh,
"Oh, this is a whole little 7-minute thing, actually,
yeah.
rather than a couple totally separate things." So that was good because now I have like my half hour is like 4 separate little chunks.
Yeah.
How exciting is that?
Yeah. Wow. You're very organized with joke writing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
try to be. I could be more organized. I'm surprised I don't have a spreadsheet.
Right.
I might have a spreadsheet that I did a couple years ago. I should
Yeah.
find it, but um, yeah, I try. Like that's what this thing is for too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can make files and store different notebooks in the files. So I have a whole file that's just comedy stuff. And I
Okay.
have like 100 different
Yeah.
topics that I'm like, oh, I need to write about this. I just write down lists of things I have strong opinions about.
Yeah. And that's what that emotional conviction, things that matter to you, that's
Hmm.
ultimately what drives material. Like much like character with story.
Yeah, it's like who's this character?
Yeah.
That's what my stand up is. It's
No,
all this character.
are you a Chris Gethard fan?
No. I'm
Okay.
not I'm not a fan. I just haven't listened to much of his stuff.
Okay. He had the Chris Gethard show on public access, later got moved to Fusion and then True TV, and now he has a Beautiful Anonymous podcast. His brother is also a comedian, and Chris, he was on Mark Maron's podcast like many years ago, talking about like how like his like one of the things that he attributes to his success versus his brother is that he's way more organized. And that's just like something that's sort of like stuck with me like early on. Yeah, that's good to like it's good that you have your system.
Yeah, I think that's how I'm able to kind of keep up. I'm not going to be cocky and say I totally keep up, but
Yeah.
keep up with New York comics and because
Yeah.
they're so much funnier. Like
They
people
really are.
people in LA who've never gone to New York to see what real comics are like suck. You have to go to see them and go, okay, that's where I
I,
stand in the grand scheme of things. I need to get way better because I did that early on at around 3 years in, and I
yeah.
was like, okay, I need to be here. I'm here right now,
I
and they're so much better because of the stage time. But I figured out the way to get it once you know what you're aiming at in terms of laughs per minute,
yeah.
like how they're like that. Well, then you just know what to aim for.
Okay.
Um, so what I do is I haven't done this in a while, but what helped me get to the next level without having to do 3 shows a night was, I'll record my sets, then transcribe them by hand in a notebook, and then get rid of the fat. Just cut
Yeah.
all the fat, and then wash, rinse, repeat, and, oh my god, that, like, speeds up the process of polishing things by, like, tenfold.
Oh
So
yeah,
then you can
I could only imagine like
yeah.
that's something that takes so much practice to be able to trim that added fat or trim that
Mhm.
extra fat.
Yeah,
Cause
but by doing that, I'm able to get up maybe only 3, 4 times a week, that's it total,
yeah,
and I can make, like, still substantial progress and still be pretty strong comic without nightly 2, 3 times a night.
I do think there's a benefit. Like me, I'm obviously like I don't have the opportunity to do as much comedy as I did back in 2019 when I did almost 1,000 or I did over 1,000 sets in a year. But I've progressed way more with what little I have. And one of Liz Glazer's theories, she quoted Ira Glass talking about how one of the something that an artist should do at the very beginning is produce a large body of work and just sort of like take it from there. And I think that's sort of what my 1,021 sets was like. Obviously, wasn't the best quality stage time, but I was just getting the reps in and being comfortable in front of a microphone.
Mhm. Yeah. And that's part of what the Zoom shows accomplish is you're still
Yeah.
getting those reps in. I've been doing one every single Tuesday since the beginning of the pandemic. Do
Okay.
you remember the Dime Adam Hunter's show
Yes,
over on Fairfax?
I think I saw a flyer earlier, but yeah,
Yeah, so he's been doing that every Tuesday. It's the Dime on Zoom, and uh, it's a brutal.
yeah,
It's like an open mic, pretty much. It's mostly just comics, often almost the same comics, a few real people in there.
yeah,
But if you can get laughs out of it, then you know something's funny. Like
yeah.
it's
I
pretty it's a pretty good judge of, what's going to work in real life. And so doing that every week has been really crucial to helping me write new material and stay polished. And then on top of it, listening to Adam Hunter and Nikki Paris's comedy style, they're very set up punch, set up punch, set up
okay.
punch. So it's led to me like ingraining that rhythm in my own comedy, and I think it's actually made me funnier.
All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I do find because I'm still very because I was very not very anti Zoom comedy, but enough that I wouldn't do it. And I remember seeing I started doing like I now host a Zoom mic every like Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday,
Oh, nice.
just to like get some like added reps in. And I do find like if something it's much more difficult to read a room. It's definitely like a different style. Like I wouldn't essentially I wouldn't like equate it to the experience of doing live stand up comedy, but it's still if something is hitting there, then like you are onto something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. I have to get back to my writing.
Yeah,
So,
I was trying to like look at how much time we've done, but like I was trying to do it discreetly. Like I can't see the Zoom recorder right now. An hour and 8 minutes. Wow, this was this was an incredible conversation. Cat Alvarado, is there anything you would like to plug?
absolutely. Check out my podcast, Villains of History. It's on everywhere podcasts are found. And yeah, and follow me on Instagram. That's where I post all my silly sketches if you want to see those. That's the Cat Alvarado,
Okay.
CATALVARADO. So you can find me there.
Okay, awesome. Twitter, any like
Oh,
no.
Twitter, same thing.
All
The
right.
Cat Alvarado. Twitter,
Okay.
Instagram. On Instagram, there's the funny sketches, and I post a lot to my stories. So I'll do like Q&As and like do funny like
Right on.
answers to the answer, funny commentary on the answers, and then Twitter is like pithy things,
Yeah.
pithy sentences about
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Life.
Yeah.
What is it?
Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club? Turtle.
Rate and subscribe.